William Harris woke at 6:30 am out of habit. As soon as dawn broke through his bedroom curtains, he was already reaching for his alarm clock to turn off the quiet ringing. Bill, as his friends and family called him, always started his day early. In his 40s, he had acquired many established habits: a morning jog in the local park, a shower, then preparing breakfast for the family. His wife, Rebecca, usually still asleep at these hours, and the 12-year-old daughter Lily was just starting to wake up for school. Bill went down to the kitchen and threw a windbreaker over his pajama top. The house was still chilly. The Pennsylvania autumn morning was crisp, and he opened the window for a moment, letting in a breath of cool air. It was just getting light outside. Bill went out onto the porch to pick up the morning paper. He subscribed to newspapers out of an old habit. Although he mostly read the news online, he enjoyed the ritual of unfolding a fresh issue over a cup of coffee. He set up the coffee maker, trying to be as quiet as possible. While the coffee was brewing, Bill took eggs and bacon out of the fridge. Breakfast was traditionally hearty in their family. He cooked on autopilot, mentally running through his to-do list for the day. As an accountant at a mid-sized firm, he was accustomed to a strict schedule. Today, he had a meeting with a new client, then the usual number crunching. At the end of the day, there was a parent-teacher meeting at Lily's school. Nothing out of the ordinary. Footsteps were heard on the second floor. Lily had probably woken up. Bill smiled. His daughter always woke up a little later than him, but earlier than her mother. A couple of minutes later, the girl came downstairs, yawning and wrapping herself in a fluffy dressing gown. "Morning, Dad," Lily muttered, heading straight for the table, her light brown hair sticking out from sleep, a reddish mark from the pillow on her cheek. "Morning, Princess," Bill answered quietly, turning strips of bacon in the frying pan. "How did you sleep?" "It's fine." Lily sat down at the table and rubbed her eyes. "Can I have cereal instead of eggs? I don't feel like eating eggs today." "Sure, whatever you say," he nodded. Bill pushed a box of his daughter's favorite cereal toward her and poured her some milk. He didn't insist on a hot breakfast. If she asked for something else, the main thing was that she ate. Lily stirred her cereal with a spoon, still blinking sleepily. Bill, meanwhile, was spooning fried bacon and eggs onto a plate for Rebecca and himself. He glanced at the clock on the wall. 7 o'clock. Time to wake his wife, or she'd be rushing off to work again. Bill went upstairs and quietly opened the bedroom door. In the dim light, he could make out Rebecca's figure, covered with a blanket. She was sleeping on her side, her dark hair spread out over the pillow. Bill came over and gently touched her shoulder. "Becky, wake up, it's 7 o'clock, he whispered tenderly. Rebecca stirred and muttered something unintelligible in displeasure. Then she rolled over onto her back and opened her eyes. What? 7 o'clock already?" she said sleepily. She looked tired. Rebecca had often looked tired in the mornings in recent months, blaming it on her stressful job at the dealership. "Yes, it's 7 already. I made coffee," said Bill, "and breakfast is almost ready." She nodded and sat up, swinging her legs over the side of the bed. Bill noticed that there was a folder with some documents on the nightstand next to her phone. She must have brought work home. He said nothing. Rebecca often stayed late, either at the salon or solving some issues on the phone at home. Bill understood this. She was a sales manager, a responsible position. Sometimes she had to go out on weekends to meet with clients. He was proud of her career success, although sometimes he missed her attention at home. Rebecca stood up, threw her favorite silk robe over her shoulders, and went into the bathroom. Bill heard the sound of water. His wife took a shower. He went back into the kitchen to keep the eggs from burning. Lily was already finishing her cereal, looking at the screen of her phone next to her plate. "Don't get carried away, or you'll forget your backpack again," Bill told her jokingly, noticing how his daughter was buried in her messenger conversation. Lily snorted. "I remember. Susie is just writing, asking questions about her homework." Bill smiled and sank into his thoughts, putting breakfast on plates. A few minutes later, Rebecca came down, already dressed for work, a strict dark blue blouse, a pencil skirt. She looked, as always, collected. Her makeup was neat, but Bill noted to himself that she chose a brighter lipstick than usual, and the perfume was also different, Swedish. Before, she used a fresh citrus scent, and this one was heavier, evening or something. He did not attach much importance to this. The thought just flashed new perfume. Maybe she just decided to change her image. "Good morning, Mom," Lily said with her mouth full as Rebecca walked into the kitchen. "Hi, sunshine. Have you had breakfast yet?" Rebecca smiled softly at her daughter, then looked at her husband. "Hi, Bill. Thanks for making this." "You're welcome." Bill sat down at the table, handing her a mug of coffee. "How did you sleep?" "Not bad." Rebecca sank into a chair and took a sip of coffee. "It's going to be another crazy day today. We'll have to stay late. We have inventory at the end of the week." "Late again?" Bill asked, trying to keep his voice neutral. "You were late yesterday, too." Rebecca shrugged, taking a bite of toast. "It's reporting season, you know. Clients demand attention. Management is putting pressure on. Plus, the new guy in our department, Jordan, doesn't know everything yet, so we have to keep an eye on him." "I see," Bill responded. The name Jordan already knew it from her stories about work. Jordan was new at the dealership. Rebecca had mentioned him a couple of times. She seemed to respect him. He was a promising salesman coming from another dealership. Bill didn't pay attention to it, just business matters. "Need help with Lily tonight? I have a meeting at school today, remember?" "Oh yeah, the meeting." Rebecca spread jam on her toast, frowning. "You know, I don't think I can go. If I'm late, I won't make it. Will you go alone? You can tell me what it is later." Bill nodded. "Of course I'll go. It's not the first time." He sighed slightly. He often went to Lily's school events alone lately. Rebecca was either busy or forgetful. Bill told himself that this was life, no big deal. He could handle it. After breakfast, Lily ran upstairs to get dressed. Rebecca soon got up from the table, picked up her jacket from the chair, and checked the contents of her handbag. Bill watched her nervously run her eyes around the room, clearly remembering something. "Are you looking for something?" he asked. "The car keys," the wife responded. "Where did I put them yesterday?" "Maybe on the shelf in the hallway," Bill suggested. "You came home late. You probably left it there." Rebecca slapped her forehead. "Exactly. Thank you." She quickly went into the hallway. Bill heard the jingle of keys. She found it. A minute later, she returned to the kitchen, where Bill was already collecting the dirty dishes. "Okay, I'm going to run. I'll see you tonight," Rebecca said as she walked. She came up to him and kissed him on the cheek quickly, mechanically. She was usually in such a hurry that these kisses were more a tribute to habit than an expression of affection. Bill caught the scent of her new perfume, sweet and sharp, making his throat itch slightly. "Have a good day," he wished her, smiling slightly. Rebecca had already turned around, heading towards the exit. "You too, I love you," she threw over her shoulder, meaning both him and Lily. The door slammed, and she was gone. Bill stood there for a moment, staring at the empty doorway. "I love you," echoed in his ears. He was glad to hear it, of course, but for some reason the words had become automatic lately, as if she said them because she was supposed to. Bill pushed the unpleasant thought away. "Don't get worked up. Everything is fine." He cleared the dishes from the table and loaded the dishwasher. There was a stomping sound downstairs. Lily was coming down already in her school uniform, with a backpack on her shoulders. "I'm ready," she announced. "Let's go, or I'll be late." Bill threw his jacket over his shirt and picked up the keys to his car. He dropped his daughter off at school in the mornings, fortunately on his way to work. They left the house, locking the door. There were two cars in the driveway, his blue sedan and Rebecca's silver SUV. The SUV was gone. She had left a minute earlier. "Is Mom gone already?" Lily asked, sitting down in the front seat of her father's car. "No, she left early today. She's busy," Bill answered, starting the engine. Lily nodded and looked at her phone again as the car pulled out of the yard. Bill glanced at his daughter, a typical teenager, always online. He decided to use the road to remind her. "I'm going to the meeting this evening, as you know. Will you do your homework yourself, or will you ask your mother to help you when she comes? Lily looked up from the screen. Mom won't be here. She said she'll be late. I can do it myself. I'm already big, she answered, pouting slightly. Bill gripped the steering wheel tighter. Yes, his daughter had already gotten used to her mother being busy. He tried to compensate for this, but he understood that Lily was missing Rebecca's attention. However, as the 12 children became more independent, Bill convinced himself. Okay, if there's anything you don't understand, leave it. We'll figure it out together later, he said. I'll be back from the meeting not too late. Okay, Lily drowned in correspondence again. They pulled up to the high school, and Bill pulled up to the curb. Lily gave him a goodbye kiss on the cheek, quickly jumped out of the car, and ran to the entrance where her friend was waiting. Bill waved after her, waited until she disappeared inside, and only then moved the car forward. His office was half an hour away. Bill turned the radio on to a low volume the morning news, then background music. He thought about the day ahead. Everything was going as usual. But somewhere deep inside, a slight worry was scratching, as if something important was slipping away from him. Maybe he was just worried about the meeting. Lily was a good student, but had become more withdrawn lately, and the literature teacher had called the other day to say that her grades had dropped. Bill attributed this to adolescence and the fact that she spent a lot of time on the phone. He would have to discuss this at the meeting. Arriving at work, he pushed aside his thoughts and plunged into work. His colleagues greeted him. Everything went as usual: spreadsheets, invoices, audits. At lunchtime, he ate his usual lunch from home, a sandwich, an apple, and called Rebecca. It was their habit to call for a few minutes in the middle of the day. The phone buzzed for a long time. Finally, Rebecca answered, her voice distant. Hi, Bill. I'll just be a minute. Is something wrong? No, nothing. I just decided to call and see how things are, he said calmly, pressing the receiver against his shoulder and biting into a piece of apple. You sound tired. Yes, I'm swamped at work, she sighed. Bill could hear the hum of voices in the background. Apparently, she was not in her office, but in the sales area or at a meeting. I got a capricious client. He's been pestering me since the morning. Sorry, I can't talk for long. Got it. Then I won't distract you. Good luck. See you tonight, said Bill. We'll call later, she quickly answered and hung up first. He looked at the blank screen of his phone. Usually, they would talk a little longer at lunch, sharing little things. Today, Rebecca clearly had no time for that. Bill reminded himself that it was nothing out of the ordinary, a busy day. But somewhere in the corner of his soul, anxiety stirred, for no apparent reason. He pushed it away, returning to work. In the evening, Bill, as promised, stopped by the school for a parent-teacher meeting. Rebecca was not there, as expected. In the teacher's room, they were talking about the upcoming exams, about the children's behavior. The literature teacher really did notice that Lily had become less active, raising her hand less, although she used to be one of the most lively students. Bill listened, nodding, promising to talk to his daughter. Lily's classmates were sitting next to their parents, and Bill felt a little awkward. He was alone without his wife. Several mothers he knew asked questions. Glancing at him, everyone knows that both parents usually come. One of Lily's deskmates, Mrs. Green, even asked in a whisper. Rebecca couldn't come. Yes, I was late at work, Bill answered quietly with a polite smile. Mrs. Green nodded understandingly, but Bill caught a hint of sympathy or condemnation on her face. It was hard to tell. He looked away, trying to concentrate on the director's speech. After the meeting, he picked up the printouts of the class's progress, thanked the teachers, and headed for the exit. It was almost 8 o'clock. It was getting dark in the school parking lot, and the streetlights cast yellow circles of light on the asphalt. Bill took out his phone and wondered if he should call Rebecca to tell her the results. He decided to text her. If she was still at work, a call might distract him. He typed quickly, "The meeting went well. Lily's performance in literature has dropped a little. We'll talk at home. I'm leaving." The answer didn't come right away. About 5 minutes later, when he was already sitting in the car. "Thanks for coming. Sorry, it's all on you. We'll discuss it later." Bill read the words under the streetlight. It's all on you, stung slightly. He didn't mind taking on the burden, but he wanted them to share the burden of caring for their daughter. However, Rebecca seemed to be overloaded with work. He sighed, put the phone down, and started the car. Silence greeted him at home. Lily was sitting in the living room at the coffee table, surrounded by textbooks. When she saw her father, she raised her head. Hello? How was the meeting? It's fine. Bill sat down next to her, looking at her notebook. Listen, Miss Roberts said you're not participating as much in literature class. What's wrong? Are you not interested, or is something wrong? Lily looked down. I don't know. I'm just tired, I guess. These poems and stories. I don't want to talk in front of everyone. I used to, Bill said softly. You loved literature. Lily shrugged. It was before, but now, not so much. Bill understood that there was no point in pressing. She was at a difficult age. Perhaps she herself did not understand the reasons. Maybe she was worried that her mother was often busy. He decided not to interrogate her. Instead, he put his arm around his daughter's shoulders. You know, if you have something on your mind, you can always talk to me or your mom. We will help. Lily nodded, but remained silent, burying her face in her notebook again. Bill noticed that the dinner on the stove was untouched. Apparently, Rebecca had called and told them to eat themselves. He got up, heated up some lasagna from the refrigerator for Lily and a portion for himself. They had dinner together. Lily told funny stories from school. It seemed that her mood had improved. Mom must be really busy to be late again, Lily said casually during dinner. Her tone made it clear that her daughter was trying to seem indifferent, but it was hurting her. Yes, she has a project now, Bill confirmed, although he didn't know exactly what project. She'll come and kiss you, even if you're already asleep, I promise. Lily didn't answer, just nodded and took her plate to the sink. By 9 o'clock in the evening, Bill had put his daughter to bed. Rebecca was still not home. Lily, wrapped in a blanket, asked quietly, Dad, is Mom really coming today? I fell asleep yesterday and never got to see her. Bill stroked her head, pushing a strand of hair away from her face. He'll come, my dear. It's just work. Sleep well. As he left Lily's room, a pang of uneasiness pierced his soul. Yesterday, Rebecca had arrived around midnight, citing accounting problems. She was expected to be home very late today, too. Bill walked into the living room and sank into a chair. He turned the TV on low. Some late news was on, but he was only half listening, glancing at his watch. 10 o'clock, 11. At 10 to 12, he heard a motor in the driveway. Bill looked out the window, his wife's silver SUV. Finally, the door opened quietly. Rebecca walked in, trying not to make any noise, but she jumped when she saw Bill in the living room. Oh, you're not sleeping, she muttered, taking off her shoes. I was waiting for you, he said calmly, pressing the remote to turn off the TV. How did it go? You looked tired. Rebecca did look exhausted. Her makeup was faded. There were shadows under her eyes. She ran her hand across her forehead. Yes, today is a real hell. The client made a scandal because of the late delivery of the car. Then the server went down. We couldn't process the transactions for half a day. We barely sorted it out. Bill stood up and walked over to his wife. It's been a hard day. Do you want some tea, or should I go to bed right away? Rebecca smiled sadly. Some tea wouldn't hurt. My throat is dry from the negotiations. He went into the kitchen and put the kettle on. Rebecca followed him and sat down on a stool. She rubbed her temples. Is Lily asleep yet? She asked in a low voice. Yes, a long time ago. By the way, she asked about you. She misses you. Rebecca looked away. I know. I'm sorry, but there's no other way now. I think it will be easier in a couple of weeks. The main thing is to survive this month. Bill nodded, though he wasn't entirely sure. He poured boiling water into the mugs and threw them in the tea bags. His wife cupped her hands around the mug, warming herself. Oh, by the way, how was the meeting? She suddenly remembered, looking at her husband. Nothing special. We were talking about exams. Lily was a little less active in class. I talked to her later, he said briefly. Rebecca frowned. Lowered? She always liked to answer. Yes, I was surprised too, but she said she was just tired. Maybe it was puberty. Bill took a sip of hot tea. I think everything will be fine. You just need to pay her a little more attention. He looked at his wife, trying not to sound reproachful. She smiled sadly. You're right. I'll try. I'll definitely spend a day with her on the weekend. That's a good idea, Bill agreed. They talked a little more about small household details, about paying the electricity bill, about Bill's car having a monsoon, the usual marital exchange of information. Then, having finished their tea, they both went up to the bedroom. Rebecca fell asleep quickly, barely touching him, lying on her side. Bill lay for a while, staring at the ceiling in the dark. Well, the day went by as usual. But the strange feeling of anxiety that had arisen in the morning did not go away. He could not grasp its cause and gradually fell asleep with this anxiety. Another couple of weeks passed in almost the same mode. Life for the Harris family went on as usual. Morning breakfasts, school, work, Rebecca's late arrivals. She still referred to the workload, reports, checks. New guy Jordan screwed up with the paperwork again, had to redo it. Bill listened, empathized, and tried to support. But gradually a vague anxiety was growing in his soul. The first warning signs came when Bill noticed changes in his wife's behavior. They were small things, but they added up to a disturbing picture. Rebecca began spending much more time on her phone. Previously, they could watch a movie together in the evenings or discuss the news while lying in bed. Now, as soon as they were near each other, she seemed to withdraw, scrolling through her social media feed, texting, and putting her phone aside only when Bill tried to talk. And even then, she seemed distracted, as if her thoughts were somewhere else. One night, Bill woke up to a faint light. Rebecca was sitting on the edge of the bed with her back to him, her smartphone screen glowing. She was typing a message, trying to do it silently. Bill raised himself up on his elbow a little. Becky? What happened? She shuddered and turned around sharply. Sorry, I didn't want to wake you up. The client had a problem. She wrote to me late. I answered. At 1 o'clock in the morning? He asked, surprised, squinting to see the time on the alarm clock. Sometimes, Rebecca shrugged, quickly turning off the screen. I'll go get some water and go to bed. She left the bedroom, leaving her husband lost in thought. Of course, it could have been work-related. There were all sorts of clients. But Rebecca had never done that before. Bill turned away, determined to drive away suspicion. Trust is the foundation of marriage, he reminded himself. However, the next day he noticed that Rebecca had deleted that nighttime conversation. There were no recent messages in her work chat on her phone. He didn't dare ask her directly why she had deleted it. It would look like mistrust or surveillance. He didn't want a scandal, especially without a reason. Another incident occurred on a weekend. On Saturday afternoon, Rebecca said she needed to go to the mall for a few hours, supposedly to buy a new suit. Bill suggested that the whole family go together. Lily needed clothes for the winter, and it wouldn't hurt to go for a walk. But his wife unexpectedly refused. You know, I wanted to go alone. I need to quickly get there and back, run around the shops purposefully. I won't have time with you, I'll get distracted. Bill was surprised. Usually Rebecca didn't mind shopping together. Lily was also upset. Mom, let's go together. I'd like to see something for myself too. Next time, my dear, I promise. The mother smiled somewhat tensely and hurried out, kissing Lily on the top of her head. I really feel more comfortable alone today. Bill and his daughter exchanged glances as Rebecca closed the door. Lily pouted. She didn't take me. That's not good. Maybe Mom has a surprise? Maybe she wants to choose a present. Bill tried to smooth things over. Lily just shrugged, clearly hesitant. The girl went to watch TV, and Bill put on his jacket and went out onto the back porch. The strangeness of this situation did not go away from him. Why didn't she take us? If they really were just going shopping, it would make sense to go together. It would be more fun and convenient. He understood when Rebecca went on business alone. But here, about 20 minutes later, When Bill was walking around the yard, mechanically collecting fallen leaves, he heard the voice of his neighbor, Mrs. Wilson, from behind the fence. "Good afternoon, Bill. Are you working?" "Oh, hello." He came closer to the fence. "Yes, I'm raking leaves." Mrs. Wilson smiled. "What a good girl. Listen, I saw your Rebecca today. She flew out of the house so quickly. She didn't even have time to wave. Your wife is always busy with work." Bill nodded. "Yes, I went shopping." "Ah, I see. She drives well. Her car is fast, sporty," the neighbor said good-naturedly. He wanted to object that they didn't have a sports car, but a regular crossover, but Mrs. Wilson had already switched to the topic of new city flower beds. Bill kept up the conversation in a detached manner. However, he noted to himself sports car. Maybe she was mistaken. Or, no, stupid. Although a sports red car was seen on the street, which parked nearby a couple of times, probably someone was visiting. It doesn't matter. When Rebecca returned 3 hours later, Bill asked her if she had managed to buy a suit. His wife showed him a bag from the boutique with a blouse and a skirt. Apparently, she had made a purchase. She looked pleased, even excited, her cheeks flushed, her eyes sparkling. It seemed that shopping had revived her. That evening, the three of them even watched a movie at Lily's insistence and ate popcorn. Rebecca was affectionate with her daughter, laughing at the right jokes. Bill relaxed a little. All the strangeness of the last few days, maybe it was just his imagination. Everyone is under stress, he convinced himself. You have to trust your wife. But soon an event occurred that made Bill even more wary. One Monday, when he arrived at the office, the secretary handed him an envelope. "They gave it to you personally and asked you to hand it over in the morning." Bill turned the plain white envelope in his hands in surprise, without a stamp, only his name printed on the sticker. Who could it be from? He went behind his desk, opened it. Inside were only 2 photographs. Bill's heart sank when he saw them. The first picture was of his wife, Rebecca. She was standing in a parking lot near a cafe, half-turned. Next to her was a man, tall, about 30, with dark short hair. They were laughing. Rebecca's face was beaming with a smile that Bill hadn't seen at home for a long time. The man was touching her back lightly, unobtrusively, but clearly in a friendly way, if not more. Bill recognized this man immediately. Jordan, the wife's new colleague whom she mentioned. The second photo shows Rebecca and Jordan sitting inside at a table, leaning close to each other. Their heads are almost touching. She is looking into his eyes. There is a clear intimacy between them. They looked like a couple, definitely. Bill felt nausea rising in his throat. He literally stood petrified at the table, looking at this evidence. His heart began to pound heavily. The blood rushed to his face. "Is this a joke?" flashed through my head. But the photos spoke for themselves. Rebecca and Jordan, together, and they looked like they were on a romantic date. His hands clenched involuntarily. Bill looked around. His colleagues were busy with their own affairs. No one saw him. He quickly put the photo back in the envelope, shoving it into the inside pocket of his jacket. Chaos in his head. Who sent this? Why? Did someone decide to open his eyes? Maybe anonymously, with good intentions. Or, on the contrary, with evil ones. It doesn't matter now. He stood up and walked into the conference room, which had been empty that morning. He closed the door behind him and took out the photographs again. He looked at them more closely, his hands shaking. The pictures were quite clear, clearly taken from a distance, perhaps with a zoom phone. There was no signature on the back, nothing. Just the two of them, his wife and the other man. Bill sat up, feeling his knees buckle. This can't be. Rebecca. Cheating. No, she would never do that. But here was the proof. His rational mind was frantically trying to reject the obvious. Maybe this was just a business meeting. But why such close communication, gestures, and why send him photos anonymously? The pounding heart echoed in his ears. The first emotion was shock, then anger, a hot wave that rolled over him for a second, followed by a cold realization. This is really happening. Remembered all the little signals of the last few weeks. Late returns, secret messages at night, strange shopping. That's it. 10 minutes later, having collected his thoughts, Bill took a deep breath. It was too early to panic. Perhaps there was an explanation that he could not see yet. He decided not to do anything rashly. Step by step, he told himself mentally, repeating his life principle. First, check the information. Photos are strong evidence, but you need to understand the context. When was this taken? Who could have sent it? Bill wondered who might know his office and deliver the envelope. Perhaps someone at the dealership who sympathized with him or didn't like Rebecca and Jordan, or a private detective hired by someone or acting on his own. Odd. He hid the envelope in his briefcase so as not to lose it. He left the conference room, trying to remain calm. He had to somehow make it to the evening without showing it. He decided to immerse himself in work, putting aside his thoughts. But this turned out to be almost impossible. The numbers were blurring before his eyes. He made two mistakes in the simplest calculations, which is not like him. His cubicle colleague, Tom, even asked, "Bill, are you okay? You look a little pale." Bill smiled tensely. "Yes, everything is fine. My head hurts, probably the pressure. Maybe you should take a break and go for a walk," Tom suggested sympathetically. "I think I'll do that, thank you," Bill nodded. He actually went outside to get some fresh air. His head was spinning with thoughts. What to do? Confront Rebecca right away. But then she'll find out about the photo and start asking where it's from. Maybe it's a lie, although the photos are obvious. Or do I need to gather more evidence first? What if it was a one-off? No, judging by the tenderness on their faces, it's unlikely to be a one-off. As the first sharp shock began to subside, Bill felt a rising wave of hurt and pain. It was as if there was an emptiness in his chest. He remembered their happy moments, their wedding 15 years ago, Lily's birth, their trips together, just cozy family evenings. Did she really put all this at risk for the sake of some hobby? For what? After all, he wasn't a bad husband, he didn't drink, he wasn't rude, he tried to take care of her, he supported her career. Despair was growing inside, but Bill suppressed it with an effort of will. Now was not the time to fall apart. Nothing was yet clear. He needed to think about what to do next. He remembered a friend of his, a colleague from a neighboring department who had been getting divorced a year ago. There had been infidelity on the part of his wife, and that colleague, having lost his head, had made a scandal with a fight with his lover, which only worsened his situation in the end. He himself almost ended up in the police station, and at the divorce proceedings it looked against him. Bill then thought, I probably wouldn't have been able to resist either, and now, it seems, he is stepping on a similar rake. He decided that he needed confirmation beyond these photos. It would be better to see for himself or get something else. And it is imperative to consult a lawyer before taking any steps if it does come to divorce. Returning to his desk, the first thing he did was write a message to his old friend, to Mike Russell, who worked as a private lawyer. "Hello? Can we meet tomorrow or in the next few days? We need to consult on a personal matter. Confidentially." Mike replied after half an hour. "Hi, Bill. Sure. Let's do it tomorrow at lunch, my office or a cafe nearby." Better off at the office. Remember the Greenleaf Cafe on Main Street, 12:30. Okay, I will. Having agreed, Bill felt a little relieved. Soon there would be professional advice. For the rest of the working day, he tried not to think about personal matters. It was not going well. When Bill came home that evening, he heard Lily's laughter coming from the living room. He looked in and saw a pleasant picture. Rebecca and Lily were sitting next to each other on the sofa. Sketchbooks and paints were laid out in front of them, apparently. Lily was showing her mother her drawing for a school project. Rebecca looked pleased. She put her arm around her daughter's shoulders. Bill's heart sank. Just this morning, he would have simply been happy about their unity, but now everything was viewed through the prism of suspicion. "Oh, Daddy's here," Lily exclaimed when she noticed him. "Look, Mommy and I are drawing a landscape. We have a natural history project due tomorrow." "Great," Bill faked a smile as he walked in. "Hi, how are you?" "Hello, darling," Rebecca stood up, greeting him with a light kiss. He didn't catch a whiff of that sweet perfume on her today. She probably didn't wear it at home. We decided to catch up. I came early today. That's good, Bill nodded, looking into her eyes. He wanted to find something in them, a lie, shame, but Rebecca looked openly, as if nothing had happened. In her eyes, there was only joy that they were spending the evening with their daughter. For a moment, Bill wondered if the photos were some kind of mistake, but the faces in them were clearly hers and Jordan's. Family during the day, a stranger in the evening, a split life. He felt uneasy. He walked away, taking off his jacket. I'll quickly change and join in. In the bedroom, hanging up his jacket, he took out the envelope with the photographs and hid it in his bottom desk drawer under the files. Then he looked at himself in the mirror. His face was drawn, there were shadows under his eyes, the result of a nervous day. He tried to give himself a more cheerful appearance and returned to his family. The evening passed unusually calmly and even pleasantly. He, Lily, and Rebecca cooked dinner together, a simple pasta, joked. Then the three of them sat down to watch a family show. Rebecca seemed genuinely happy to be home. She hugged Lily and exchanged smiles with Bill. Everything looked almost perfect. However, Bill found himself subconsciously waiting. When will she pick up the phone again, or would she distance herself? But no, that evening she put her phone down and didn't touch it, even when notifications came. She only said, "I've had enough work. My evening is with my family." Before going to sleep, lying next to his wife, Bill heard her even breathing. Rebecca had fallen asleep earlier, hugging his hand. He lay with his eyes open, looking at the ceiling. Hope beat in his soul. Suddenly everything is not so bad. Maybe the photos were just a stupid coincidence, but everything matched up too well. And most importantly, he had no explanation as to why someone had decided to send them. So either someone wanted to harm him, or, on the contrary, to tell him the truth. In any case, he couldn't ignore them. Bill slept very badly that night. He had restless dreams of himself standing alone on the beach, and of Rebecca and Lily sailing away with a stranger in a boat. He called out, but there was no voice. He woke up in a cold sweat around 5 in the morning, and then lay there, waiting for the dawn to rise and begin a new day that could change his life. Tuesday morning began as usual on the outside. Breakfast, getting ready, driving. But inside, Bill was seething with tension. He wanted to question Rebecca immediately, but he knew he couldn't. Without collecting his thoughts, he could screw things up. He was determined to first meet with Mike the lawyer to figure out how best to proceed, especially if he had to get a divorce. Bill arrived at work a little later than usual, giving himself time to drop off Lily and take a quick drive around the block to calm down. He tried to look normal, even though he felt like everyone could see the word change. Rebecca didn't notice anything in the morning. She ran out of the house again in a hurry, throwing out, "I love you," and waving her hand. Bill didn't stop her with unnecessary questions, although inside he wanted to ask, "How are things with you and Jordan?" But that would only give away his suspicions. At 12:30, he walked into the Greenleaf Cafe. It was a small, cozy place near the office where he and Mike sometimes had lunch. Mike was already sitting at a table by the window, stirring his coffee. When he saw Bill, he raised his hand in greeting. "Hi, you look a bit pale. Did something serious happen?" Bill sat down opposite him, feeling a lump in his throat. Mike was an old friend of his from his college days, but they didn't see each other very often because they were both busy. However, Mike had always been a reliable advisor. In addition, as a lawyer who understood family law, he could help practically. "Hi," Bill answered quietly. "Yeah, it happened. Just don't tell anyone, okay?" "I see, it's a delicate matter." Mike put down his coffee, switching to serious mode. "Speak, I'm listening." Bill looked around. There was no one around, few other customers. He leaned forward and, lowering his voice, said, "I think my wife is cheating on me." Saying it out loud was terribly hard. My heart stabbed again, as if saying it made it more real. Mike pursed his lips. "I sympathize. Are you sure or just suspecting?" Bill pulled a folded envelope from his inside jacket pocket. It almost physically hurt him to show it, but Mike was a friend and a lawyer. He had to. He pulled out the photographs and laid them on the table, pushing aside the napkins. Here, received it anonymously yesterday. Apparently, it was taken recently. This is Rebecca and her colleague. Mike looked at the pictures and frowned. He studied them for a few seconds, then carefully handed them back. Yes, the evidence is strong. Who sent it is unknown. No, they just passed it on to the office. I thought maybe it was someone I knew, but no idea. And do you want a divorce? Or should we sort this out first? Mike asked directly, looking him in the eye. Bill rubbed his face with his hands. I don't know. I'm shocked. I haven't done anything yet. I haven't told her. I'm afraid of losing my temper or doing something stupid. So I came to you, what's the best way to act if this is true? Mike nodded understandingly. It's right that you didn't do anything stupid. So here's the thing. First of all, calm down as much as possible. You can't act on emotions now. You need more information. You don't know the details, how long this has been going on, how serious it is. Maybe it's a passing fancy. Or maybe they've been in a relationship for a long time. It's not known yet. Yes, Bill clenched his fists on the table. And how do you find out? Hire a detective. Follow him yourself. Mike shrugged. Option. You can gather more evidence. For what? If you decide to get a divorce, then. In Pennsylvania, as you remember, divorce can be either by mutual consent or by fault. Adultery is the basis for a fault divorce. But more often than not, people still go by agreement. It's easier and faster if they come to an agreement. However, proven infidelity can affect some things, such as spousal support. If Rebecca decides to demand alimony, her infidelity can be a factor against it. Bill chuckled darkly. She earns more than me. What kind of alimony? All the more so. Then she can most likely claim half of the property, but infidelity in the division of property in our state, as far as I remember, is not officially taken into account, unless there was spending on a lover. Waste. That is, if she spent money from the family budget on him, is that important? In theory, yes, Mike confirmed. If there were significant expenses for maintaining communications, expensive gifts, payment for hotels, travel, and you can prove it, the court can compensate you during the division. But then again, more often people just try to come to an amicable agreement. Bill listened, nodding absently. The legal details distracted him from the pain. He asked, what about Lily, if it comes to divorce? She's 12, most likely, custody will be joint. Yes, usually joint physical and legal custody, Mike agreed, unless there are circumstances that one parent is unfit. Infidelity is usually not a factor in determining custody unless the lover is a dangerous person for the child or the child was neglected for the sake of the affair. But generally, in a divorce, it is up to you to decide how to allocate time with the child. The court will most often approve joint parenting. Bill exhaled. Good, Lily won't be taken away from him for sure. They both love their daughter. Rebecca was a good mother too, at least before all this story, so they'll probably share. Property, the house, the bills, everything is split in half, as usual. Mike continued. Unless there's a prenuptial agreement. You didn't have one, did you? No, there wasn't, Bill frowned. They bought the house together and were still paying off the mortgage. Each had their own car, pension savings. Everything was standard. Well, I get it, but I still can't wrap my head around it. I love her, damn it. I trusted her like I trusted myself. His voice trembled treacherously. Mike extended his hand and patted her on the shoulder. Hey, hold on. I understand. You know, my clients often go through this. It's painful, but you're great for keeping your sanity. Look, before you decide on a divorce, you need to understand what she wants. Maybe she made a mistake and is ready to do anything to save the family. Or maybe she's serious with him then. Then it's better not to interfere, Bill finished for him dully. The thought infuriated him and at the same time caused him even more pain. What if Rebecca had fallen in love with someone else, had simply fallen out of love with her husband? But then why was she acting as if nothing had happened at home? Well, almost not saying anything. A double life. Mike looked at his watch. I have a meeting in 15 minutes. Let's get to the point. The plan. If you want, I know a private detective. I can give you his contact. He'll watch for a couple of days, collect material correspondence, surveillance, photos. It's not free, but there's usually a result. Bill thought about it. Detective. Spying on your own wife. It's unpleasant, but how else to establish the truth? I think that makes sense. He nodded. Give me the contact. Mike rummaged through his phone and dictated the number and name, Stan Morris. Bill wrote it down. Just keep in mind, Mike added, that the detective's evidence must be used carefully. It will be applicable in court if you decide to charge him with adultery. But if you suddenly decide to part peacefully, this evidence is more for your own peace of mind or for negotiations. I understand, Bill replied, putting the phone away. Thanks, Mike. They paid for the large cup of coffee Bill barely touched. Mike shook his hand firmly as they parted. Hang in there, buddy, and if anything happens, call me anytime, okay? Even just to talk it out. Thank you, Bill repeated again, sincerely grateful for the support. Returning to the office, he went straight to the conference room to dial Detective Stan Morris. He answered on the third ring. Morris speaking. Hello, Mr. Morris. Mike Russell recommended you to me. I need a detective service. Of a personal nature, Bill began, feeling his throat go dry. Yes, I understand. On matters of adultery, Morris asked bluntly. Yes, Bill was even taken aback by the directness. I would like to clarify the terms and meet. Okay, I work confidentially. We can meet this evening or tomorrow morning, whichever is more convenient for you. They agreed to meet that same day after work at 7 p.m. in a neutral cafe on the outskirts so as not to accidentally run into acquaintances. Bill understood that Rebecca would be home by that time, but he would come up with an excuse. For example, he would say that it was a colleague's birthday and he needed to stop by for an hour. For the rest of the day, he felt like he was in a fog. The ring on his hand, the wedding band he'd worn for 15 years, felt heavier than usual. He twirled it between his fingers, trying to concentrate on his work. Change repeated the word to himself, hoping to dull the pain, to make it habitual. It didn't work very well. However, rationality told him he was doing everything right. He would meet the detective, get the facts. Then it would be clear how to talk to Rebecca. At 6 o'clock in the evening, Bill, having collected his things, left the office. Rebecca should have been home by then. Tuesday did not seem to suggest any delays for her. He dialed her number, intending to warn her about the colleague. Hi, I'm just going to stop by a friend's house for a little birthday, he said, trying to sound natural. Rebecca didn't object and even seemed pleased. Sure, give my congratulations. Just don't be too late, okay? Lily is expecting you for dinner, although I made her some pasta. Bill assured her he would be there in an hour or two. He felt a twinge of guilt as he lied. They had never had to lie to each other about their location before. But if she, then he had to, too. The situation. At the appointed cafe, he recognized Stan Morris immediately, a stocky man of about 50 in a leather jacket with a keen gaze. He motioned him to a distant table. So, Mr. Harris, Mike gave me the general outline of the problem. Your wife is a manager at a car dealership, and you suspect an affair with an employee, correct? Bill was a little surprised by the promptness. Yes, that's right. But where did you already? Morris chuckled. Did you find out what your wife and this man look like? The internet, my friend. The car dealership's page on social networks, photos of the team. They are both there with their names signed, so I already have their faces. You are lucky, it will be easier to follow. Bill found himself stunned. Indeed, it was the 21st century information was available. So, we need to confirm the fact of the meeting outside of work, if possible, record the intimacy, Morris said in a businesslike tone. I usually take photos and video footage. Do you want a full report? Yes, perhaps, Bill nodded, although his heart sank at the thought, see with my own eyes. But there is no other way. Time frame? Say, a week of observation, or depending on the situation, when will it be enough? The sooner the better. Bill admitted. If it can be done in a couple of days, I just don't want to drag it out for too long. I understand. It's like a band-aid, better to rip it off quickly, nodded Morris. Then I'll start tomorrow. What time does your wife leave for work? Bill told Rebecca about her routine, the make and number of her car, her habits, possible reasons. She often says she's late. There were cases of weekend trips. He mentioned that there were already photos, probably taken by someone. Morris asked to look at them. Bill took out an envelope and gave it to the detective. He glanced quickly. I see, that is, they have already gone beyond somewhere. Do you know this place? No, I don't recognize the cafe, Bill shrugged. Morris returned the photo. It's okay, I'll probably figure it out from my surroundings in my free time. Okay, I'll charge this much for the job. He named the amount. The price was not small, but Bill agreed almost without thinking. Half in advance now. Bill wrote a check. He didn't have enough cash on him. Morris assured him that the check would do. Keep your phone with you. If anything happens, I'll get in touch. I usually work quietly. The target won't recognize me. Then I'll give you everything personally, nothing extra. They shook hands. Bill left the cafe with a feeling of unreality about what was happening. Did I really hire a detective to spy on my own wife? It was like a bad movie. But he saw no choice if he wanted to get to the truth and save face. Lily and Rebecca were waiting for him at home. Lily was already in her pajamas, sitting in front of the TV. Rebecca was reading some papers from work. So how was the party? She asked when Bill walked in. The usual, a couple of glasses and a cake. He waved it off. Nothing special. Lily yawned and went over to hug her father. I was waiting for you. Good night, Dad. Bill hugged his daughter. Good night, darling. Go to bed, it's getting late. When Lily left, Rebecca went up to him. Tired? You look exhausted somehow. He tensed up. Had she noticed something? No, it's just that there was a lot at work. How was your day? Oh, don't ask. Jordan was busy with the report for the main office again. The guy is trying, but he doesn't have much experience, she sighed. I'm almost like a mentor to him. Bill's heart sank at the mention of Jordan. Now every word she said about him seemed ambiguous, but he nodded. Well, it's good that he can learn from you. Rebecca hugged her husband around the waist unexpectedly. Thank you for understanding. I love you. Bill responded with an automatic hug. The words and gestures, once familiar, now caused a confusion of feelings. He murmured into her hair. And I you. He wasn't even sure if he was telling the truth. I mean, of course he still loved her. But could he say, I love you sincerely after learning about the betrayal? For now, he felt mostly pain. That evening in bed, Rebecca, apparently sensing his tension, tried to show tenderness. She pressed herself against him, kissed his neck, running her hand over his chest. Previously, Bill would have responded readily, but now, from the touch of the woman he loved, everything inside him screamed, did he touch you like that too? He couldn't. He carefully moved away. Sorry, my head hurts a bit. I guess I drank too much wine at the party. Rebecca stepped back thoughtfully. Of course, poor things. Lie down, I'll turn off the light. She didn't insist, she just kissed him on the cheek and lay down on her half. Bill turned away, feeling terrible. On the one hand, he didn't want intimacy. The image of betrayal was in the way. On the other hand, the refusal must have hurt her. But she didn't say anything. And so they fell asleep, each on their own half, with a gap in the middle that grew wider with each passing day like an invisible abyss. Bill couldn't fall asleep for a long time. He waited for tomorrow with anxiety and hoped that the truth would come out. No matter how bitter it was, there was nothing worse than uncertainty. Bill woke up early the next morning and immediately remembered. Today the detective would start surveillance. This thought both relieved and frightened him. At breakfast, he behaved as naturally as possible with Rebecca, discussed the day's schedule plans. She said that after work she might need to go on business to another branch of the dealership company. Supposedly she had been asked to help her colleagues. If she returned late, she said, don't wait for dinner. Bill only nodded, inwardly wary. Let's see if this is really true. They left as usual. Shortly after arriving at work, around 10 a.m., Bill's phone vibrated. A message from an unknown number. The subject has left work. I'm following. SM. Bill realized it was Stan Morris. Rebecca was out. During working hours? Odd. He answered briefly, "Okay, let me know." I tried to focus on the reports, but every few minutes I glanced at my phone. An hour later, a new message. The subject met with a man, presumably a colleague. Address, seaside restaurant, suburb. Recording. Bill felt his palms grow sweaty. His heart began to pound. Is she really with him in the middle of the workday in a restaurant? Seaside, he knew the place, a seafood restaurant by the lake, quite romantic. They had once celebrated an anniversary there. Now it became clear what was going on. After some time, it came again. The subject and the man left the restaurant and went in his car. Following. Bill couldn't sit still any longer. He stood up, told his colleague he had to go out for personal reasons, and ran out of the office, clutching his phone. He knew he couldn't fly there himself, that would ruin the plan. But staying was unbearable. He got into his car, parked outside the office, and just sat there, staring ahead, holding the phone. New news. They stopped at a park by the lake. It was deserted. They sat in the car for about 15 minutes. Bill closed his eyes, imagining the scene. A deserted park. For what? It was obvious why. He felt sick. He pushed the thoughts aside, trying to breathe deeply. Another message. Recorded. Hugs, kiss between subject and man in car. Photos taken. At that moment, after reading this, Bill slammed his fist on the steering wheel of his car. The pain was felt in his knuckles, but it was nothing compared to the pain inside. Kissed, all doubts have collapsed. This is not a mistake, not a one-time mention, but a real betrayal. His wife is kissing another man in broad daylight, hugging. He didn't know how long he sat there, holding the steering wheel. Probably a few minutes before he managed to regain his composure. The phone rang, a call. He looked at the screen, Rebecca. His heart sank, and he forced himself to answer as casually as possible. "Hello. Bill, here's the thing." The wife spoke slightly excitedly, but cheerfully. "They really are sending me to the branch today. I need to leave right now. I'll probably be back late, or maybe even stay there overnight if it drags on. Will I be able to leave Lily with you?" Bill clenched his jaw. What a blatant lie, God. She had just been off work, but he didn't say it with his voice. "Of course, don't worry about us. You don't mind? I know it's all awkward for you. It just happened that way," Rebecca chattered. "It's okay, do what you have to do," he replied, almost amazed at how calm his voice sounded. "We'll wait." "Thank you, darling. You're the best," she said softly. Bill had to grunt something affirmative and say goodbye, hanging up. He barely kept himself from throwing the phone. Beloved. The best. What a lie. He wanted to cry and scream at the same time, but he just leaned back in his seat, staring into space. A few minutes later, another SMS arrived from the detective. The subject has returned to work. It is unknown whether she will be delayed. I am in touch. Apparently, the daytime rendezvous was over, and she was heading back. Bill wondered if she had made up a story about the trip so she could spend time with him again in the evening. Or maybe she was being overcautious. He answered the detective. "Thank you. Continue monitoring tonight if there is any development." Looking at the time, he realized he had been away from work for almost an hour. He needed to get back. Bill wiped his damp forehead, took a couple of deep breaths, gathering the last of his composure, and headed back to the office. He somehow held on until the end of the day. The waiter, a friend, didn't notice our colleagues, actually better. His colleagues asked him a couple of times if everything was okay, and he nodded, saying that his head was splitting, he was overworked. Tom offered him a migraine pill. Bill refused, saying that he just needed to talk less, and then it would go away. Inside, everything was burning, a mixture of rage, humiliation, and resentment. Before leaving, around 5 in the evening, Morris sent a couple of photos to Bill's email. He gave him his personal email. He wrote, "I'm sending it in advance so that you have confirmation. The rest will be done upon meeting." Bill opened the letter on the monitor. In the photo, Rebecca, definitely her, and Jordan, the same one from the shots on the site. They are leaving the restaurant doors together. In another, sitting in a car, taken through the windshield, apparently from afar. They really are kissing. His hands are on her shoulders. The quality is not perfect, but you can recognize it. Then there are photos of them, apparently returning to her car or walking to the office. No, it does not matter. Enough. He closed the letter, placing it in a secure folder. Evidence received. Now the question, what's next? After waiting for the end of the working day, Bill went home. On the way, he stopped at the supermarket, bought Lily her favorite ice cream. He wanted to please her, and also to distract himself somehow. At home, Lily was sitting doing her homework. She was surprised. "Dad, where is Mom? Why are you so early? She usually comes earlier than me on Wednesdays." "Mom has an unexpected business trip," Bill said, trying not to stutter from nerves. "She won't be here until tomorrow, maybe." Lily frowned. "Again, she didn't even call me." "I guess she didn't have time," my father sighed. "You know, work." The daughter muttered something and went to her room, clearly upset. Bill remembered Mike's words, "If the child was neglected for the sake of the novel." Lily feels her mother's absence, and if it's because of her lover then, anger flared up again. But Bill suppressed it. Lily shouldn't suffer from her parents' squabbles. He tried to spend the evening with his daughter well. They cooked pizza together, or rather, heated up a frozen one, but Lily helped and watched her favorite TV series. Lily seemed to cheer up. When she went to bed, Bill locked himself in his study. He wanted to think it over. The facts were in his hands. Question, speak now or drag it out. He was afraid that if he told Rebecca right away, she would start denying everything, trying to get out of it. But he couldn't get out of it with a photo. Although, he could say, it was just a drunken kiss, nothing happened, or something like that. But the meeting during the day in a restaurant. It would probably be better to gather a couple more days of information. But would he himself have the patience to live like this, knowing and silently looking into her eyes? It's very difficult. He decided to ask a professional opinion, again a therapist. Bill remembered that their family doctor had once mentioned a good psychologist who worked with stressful situations. He looked up the contacts, yes, Dr. Grayson. For some reason, this thought of talking to a specialist calmed him down. Of course, a psychologist wouldn't solve the main problem, betrayal, but it would help him cope with his emotions now, so as not to screw things up. The next morning, Thursday, Rebecca returned early at 7 a.m., supposedly from a trip. Bill had just dropped Lily off at school when he met her car at her house. She waved, smiled, and tried to look cheerful. He pulled his car up next to her, and Lily saw her mother too and blurted out, "Mom, hi, when did you arrive?" Rebecca walked to the window. "Just now, my dear. Sorry I missed the evening. It took so long." "It happens," Bill answered evenly, looking at her over his glasses. She looked rested, not like someone on the night shift. But he didn't say a word. "I brought you some cakes from the bakery," Rebecca said cheerfully, pulling out a box. "For tea after school." Lily gasped approvingly. Bill held back his irritation, bribes the child with treats. "Thank you, leave it in the kitchen, we'll try it later," he replied. "Okay. Are you going to school now?" asked the wife. "Yes, I'll take Lily to work too," he nodded dryly. "Great, see you tonight. I'm heading home now to catch up on sleep," Rebecca smiled. "Bye, love." Lily replied, "Bye, Mom." Bill just nodded slightly and drove on. The daughter immediately asked, "Dad, shouldn't Mom go to work after her business trip?" "She probably took a day off to rest," he muttered. It was becoming increasingly difficult for him to maintain a calm tone. Although Lily didn't seem to notice, she was already chatting about cakes. During the day, Bill made an appointment at the office for an afternoon appointment with psychologist Grayson. Fortunately, his office was nearby and Bill could spare an hour. He was still thinking whether he should tell his wife later that he had been to a psychologist. but he decided not yet, we'll see later. At the reception with Dr. Grayson, a gray-haired, calm man of about 60, Bill was very nervous. He could hardly sit still. But when the doctor asked in a quiet voice to tell what had led to it, Bill suddenly broke down briefly. Gritting his teeth, he said, "My wife is cheating. I found out, and I don't know what to do." For some reason, it was easier to say this to a stranger than to a friend. Dr. Grayson nodded in agreement without interrupting. When Bill finished his brief account of how he found the photo and hired the detective asked, "Do you want to save your marriage, or are you leaning towards divorce?" Bill rubbed his forehead with his palm. "I don't know. It's hard to say now. I... I always loved her. I didn't think I could forgive something like that. Probably not. But my daughter, I'd like to save her for the sake of the child, but what if she loves someone else?" The doctor leaned forward a little. "I understand. Right now, you probably have a hellish mixture of feelings: anger, pain, disappointment." "Exactly," Bill smiled bitterly. "And I feel like I'm worse than that man since she went to him." Such an inferiority. "This is typical," the psychologist nodded. "Those who have suffered from betrayal often blame themselves, look for reasons in themselves. But remember, the decision to cheat is your spouse's choice. She is responsible for it, not you. You can think as much as you like, 'What did I do wrong?' But ultimately, she could have talked, gone to therapy, tried to solve the problems, and not cheated. So do not take someone else's blame on yourself." These words were sobering. Bill listened attentively. Grayson continued, "As for your next steps, you are great that you are keeping yourself in check for now. This is important, especially for your daughter. I would advise you to think carefully about what you want. If you want to try to restore the relationship, then you will need a long, frank conversation, perhaps marital therapy if she wants it too. It is not easy, but cases of reconciliation do happen." Bill shook his head. "I can't even think about it yet. It's too painful." "I understand. The second option is divorce. Then it is also better to conduct the dialogue as civilized as possible. You do not want to traumatize Lily with loud scandals or hostility, right?" "Of course not," Bill said quickly. "I want this to go as smoothly as possible for Lily. She already feels. She's sad that Mom is often busy, that there's tension at home." Grayson wrote something down in his notebook. "Children are very sensitive, yes. Divorce of parents is always a trauma for a child, but it can be minimized if the parents behave wisely. Your goal is for both of you to remain good, loving parents, even if they are not husband and wife." "That's true," Bill sighed. "I'm ready to put up with everything for her sake. Well, not to humiliate myself, but to behave correctly." The psychologist nodded his head approvingly. "This is a mature approach. Tell me, are you planning a face-to-face confrontation with your wife soon?" "Probably, yes. Maybe in a few days, when I have the evidence in hand." "A word of advice, if I may," Grayson said softly. "Try not to let the conversation descend into shouting, accusations, insults. Keep your style calm, rational. Tell her what you know. See how she reacts. Listen, maybe you'll learn something that will help the decision you make." Bill smiled bitterly. "For example, why did she do it? Is there even a decent explanation?" "Rather, reasons. To explain does not mean to justify, but understanding the reasons sometimes helps to close the gestalt," the psychologist explained. "Besides, if you later communicate about raising your daughter, it is important to maintain respectful communication." Bill nodded in agreement. That was right. "And one more thing, take care of yourself. Don't isolate yourself. Continue working, communicating with friends. Don't give up physical activity. Stress is best released through movement," Grayson added. "Don't neglect rest, food, sleep." It sounds trivial, but often people in such a state forget about basic things and then burn out. "I'll try," Bill smiled with the corner of his lips. "Thank you, doctor. You helped, at least to systematize." They said goodbye. Bill walked out into the street with a slightly clearer head. No hysterics, calm and reasonable, that's how it should be. He decided he wouldn't wait too long. It was Thursday. He needed to see what the detective had to offer for the week. Maybe tomorrow night, Friday, would be a good time to talk to Rebecca. Lily was staying the night at a friend's house. They had agreed a long time ago that Lily would go to a slumber party at her friend's. It would be a chance to talk alone without the baby at home. Bill called the detective. "Stan, good afternoon. I think there will be enough materials. Can we meet tomorrow? You will give me everything." Morris agreed. On Friday morning, they met in front of Bill's office. The detective handed over a flash drive and an envelope with the most explicit photos printed out. There were new ones, two for example, a picture of Rebecca and Jordan entering a motel. Bill felt sick when he saw it. It looked like they had stopped at a motel outside the city the night before after a business trip. There were text messages that Morris had somehow managed to intercept a couple of banal love texts like, "I miss you," from an unfamiliar number, probably from Jordan, and a report with a summary of all the observations, dates, places. Having swallowed the painful truth, Bill thanked the detective and paid the second part of the fee. Morris offered to help further if he needed to provide evidence in court or collect more money, but Bill said that was enough for now. These materials made him feel like he was carrying a heavy load. He was restless all day. The decisive evening was coming. Rebecca left for work on Friday morning as usual. Bill knew that she most likely intended to see him, her lover, in the evening, but Lily was at a friend's, so she could come home whenever she wanted. He did not build theories. He decided to simply ask her to come early, citing that she wanted to spend the evening together. She agreed on the phone quite easily, which surprised him. Maybe she guessed that something was wrong, or, on the contrary, decided to devote time to her husband out of guilt. Anyway, Rebecca came back around 7 in the evening. Bill had already sent Lily off to see her friend an hour earlier, so it was just the two of them in the house. Rebecca looked slightly wary as she entered the kitchen where Bill had put the kettle on. "Hi. It's so unusual that you invited me to spend the evening together. It's been a long time since we just sat together." He noticed a slight nervousness in her eyes. His insides tightened. Could she really feel it? "Yes, I have something to talk about." He gestured to a chair. "Let's sit down." Rebecca slowly sat down on the chair, placing her hands on her knees. "You're scaring me. Did something happen?" Bill sat down opposite. His heart was beating fast, but he pulled himself together, calmly, as he had rehearsed to himself. "I need to ask you directly. Please answer honestly. I'll find out the truth anyway, so it's better from you." The wife turned pale. "What? Find out what? What are you talking about?" Bill looked her straight in the eye. The moment of truth had arrived. "Are you cheating on me, Rebecca?" There was silence in the kitchen. Rebecca's face was distorted with either fear or indignation. "What? What makes you think that?" "Of course not." She said it too quickly, standing up abruptly from the table, as if in defense. "Bill, this is some kind of nonsense. Why are you suddenly asking such a thing?" Bill felt a surge of anger, but remained outwardly unperturbed. He, too, rose to be on the same level. "Stop it. I know about you and Jordan." The lover's name struck like an electric shock. Rebecca recoiled, her eyes widening. "Jordan? Is this a joke?" "There's nothing between me and Jordan. We're just colleagues." Yes, she had decided to go into denial to the end. Bill had expected it. He took the folded photographs from his jacket pocket, the same ones he had received from the detective and the anonymous person. He unfolded them and dropped them on the table between them. Rebecca's gaze flickered and she froze. In the top photo, she and Jordan were leaving the restaurant holding hands. In the other, they were kissing. For a few seconds, the wife was silent, her mouth open. Then she exhaled. "You were following me." The voice did not sound indignant, but rather shocked. "And you lied to me," Bill retorted evenly. "Here's the proof. I wanted to hear the truth from you." "Well?" Rebecca lowered her head. She seemed to be searching for words. Tears came to her eyes. "Bill, forgive me." Those 3 words confirmed everything. Despite what he already knew, Bill's heart sank painfully. He sank back into his chair, feeling weak in his legs. Rebecca also sat up quickly, covering her face with her hands. "I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you." "It's too late," he answered dully. "Tell me everything. How long has this been going on?" She sobbed, but pulled herself together, removed her hands, and looked into his face. Her gaze was guilty, desperate. "About 3 months." 3 months. Bill shook his head. Summer, fall, while he thought she was just working too much, she was already with someone else. "Are you serious? Do you love him?" He asked the painful question, although he was afraid to hear the answer. Rebecca looked down. "I myself am confused. It seemed to me, I don't know. At first it just captured me, a romance, some kind of passion. I haven't felt anything like this for a long time. And then what?" Bill asked harshly. "Then I realized I'd made a terrible mistake," she whispered. But it was too late. It had gone too far. Bill clenched his fists on the table, trying to restrain himself. He wanted to throw. "You knew what you were doing." But he remembered Dr. Grayson's advice. Listen. Listen for now." "Why?" was all he said. "What were you missing?" Rebecca shook her head, wiping away tears. "I don't know. I guess. I felt like we'd grown apart, Bill. Over the last couple of years, you're all about your routine, numbers. And I guess I was going through a midlife crisis. 40, you know. I wanted to feel young again, desirable." He smiled bitterly. "And you felt it, right?" "Yes," she admitted in a whisper. "Jordan was younger. He admired me, courted me. At first I laughed it off, but then one day, after a corporate party, we kissed. I was drunk. And then it grew into—" She paused, not stating the obvious. Bill understood. He closed his eyes for a moment, trying to suppress the image. Her and Jordan in a motel, in bed. His chest filled with pain. "Were you ever going to tell me? Or would you just live a double life?" he asked, opening his eyes. They were dry, although inside he was crying. Rebecca shook her head. "I didn't think. I was afraid. I wanted to stop it myself, honestly. I told Jordan 2 weeks ago that we had to stop." "So what?" Bill asked incredulously. "He didn't want to," she managed to say. "He fell in love. He said he'd quit his job just to be with me. I'm the one who's confused, Bill. I didn't plan to ruin the family. But it destroyed it," he stated calmly. At this point, she burst into tears. Tears streamed down her face. She covered her mouth with her hand, trying not to sob loudly. Bill watched almost detachedly. Previously, the sight of his wife in tears would have instantly melted him. He would have rushed to console her. Now he felt pity, but also cold resentment. He handed her a box of tissues. "Calm down. It's hard for me to hear this either. But since we're talking, let's go to the end." Rebecca took a napkin and wiped her eyes, trying to hold back her sobs. After a minute, she evened out her breathing. "You have every right to hate me. I hate myself for it. You were always a good husband, Bill. Kind, reliable, and I broke everything." Bill didn't answer. It was true, he was trying to be good. And so, "What now?" Rebecca finally asked, her voice shaking. "You want a divorce?" He was silent for a few seconds, thinking. Then he said quietly, "I think so. I don't see how we can continue living together after this." Rebecca closed her eyes, and a tear rolled down her cheek. "I understand. You probably want to be with him, right?" he asked, even though she was talking about stopping, but still. I don't know," she responded barely audibly. "After I told him that I couldn't do this anymore, we had a bit of a fight. He was pressuring me. He wanted me to leave him. I couldn't bring myself to. I was probably scared, and I couldn't choose." Bill shook his head. "So, both saving us and having an affair on the side are both options." Her lips trembled. "I'm sorry." He sighed, feeling tired. "Okay, I'm grateful that you're not denying the obvious, at least now. It'll be easier that way." They were silent for a moment. Then Bill got down to business. "We need to think about how to tell Lily. It will be a blow to her. I would like us to do it together, calmly." Rebecca spoke quickly. Maybe we shouldn't talk for now. Let's try living separately for a while, think. What if? What if I change my mind? Bill raised an eyebrow. Or you? Do you want to try to save the marriage? She clutched a crumpled napkin in her hands. I would like to, but you probably won't forgive me. I can't promise, he admitted bluntly. He could no longer hope for anything. The wound was too fresh. He was more inclined to end everything officially. Rebecca suddenly knelt down in front of him, taking his hand. Bill, look. I know there's no excuse for me, but please believe me, I didn't mean to hurt you. I was a fool. This is some kind of madness. You and Lily are the most precious things to me. I hate the thought of losing you. Bill looked down at her. Just a few days ago, he would have given everything to hear her say those words about the high cost of family. But now, he carefully freed his hand. It's too late to say that. She lowered her head, still standing on the floor in front of him. He felt uneasy. His wife was being humiliated. He said quietly, "Get up, no need." Rebecca stood up and straightened her back. "Just know that I'm very sorry. If you can, someday forgive me." Bill was silent. Forgiving was beyond his powers for now. Finally, he said, "I think it would be better if we separated for a while. I need to get my bearings, and you probably need to figure things out, too." "Yes, of course," she nodded quickly. "If you want, I'll leave. I can go live with my mother or somewhere. This is my fault." Her readiness to leave so quickly somehow offended him, but he only nodded his head in agreement. Maybe that's right. For now, Lily can be told that. He wondered how to explain it to the child. Let's say that Mom has a long business trip. Rebecca suggested uncertainty. "No, I can't lie to her for long. She's 12, she'll understand. It's better to tell the truth, but in measured doses, that we decided to live separately because we have problems in our relationship," Bill suggested. Rebecca agreed. "Yes, that's how it should be. Lord, poor girl, it's all my fault. We're both to blame, I guess," he breathed out. "Perhaps I didn't see your state. But Rebecca, it's your choice to change. I can't take that on myself." He remembered the psychologist's words and said it firmly. The wife nodded sadly. "I know." They discussed the practical details. They decided that in a couple of days, on Sunday, when Lily returned from her friends, they would both tell her that her mother would be staying with her grandmother for now. Rebecca's mother lived in a neighboring town. Rebecca would call her mother and arrange to stay with her temporarily. Bill would stay with Lily in the house. As for work, Rebecca said she would transfer to another branch or leave. She didn't want to work next to Jordan. It's too difficult right now. Her words sounded like remorse. Bill remained neutral. He didn't care anymore what was going on with Jordan. Although no, he did care somewhere inside. He was stabbing with jealousy that they would probably see each other again. But he pushed it away, letting their fate be decided without him. The conversation died down. They felt empty. Bill finally spoke. "I guess that's all for now." Rebecca looked at him pleadingly. "Can I stay until Sunday? I want to spend a couple of days with Lily, like usual, before." "Of course," he replied. "For our daughter's sake, we'll pretend nothing happened until she finds out." It made sense. Bill felt heavy at heart, but surprisingly, there was no shouting or hysteria. Rebecca had given in when the facts were presented and had not made a scene. He had also said everything quietly. Oddly enough, he even felt respect for both of them, for not stooping to mutual insults. It would be easier to interact later. That night, they slept in the same room, but as strangers. Rebecca lay on the very edge of the bed with her back to him, trying not to even touch the blanket. Bill didn't mind. He had barely slept all night, his thoughts racing. That's it, the marriage is over. He was in pain, and at the same time he felt a sense of clarity. The path was determined ahead was a divorce and a new life, whatever it might be. On Saturday morning, Rebecca got up earlier than usual and made breakfast for the family, as if she was trying to show her concern for the last time. She made pancakes, like in the good old days. Lily was delighted, but Bill ate almost automatically, barely tasting anything. His heart sank. How unreal everything is now. Wife and daughter are laughing, discussing something, but there is a chasm between the adults. The whole day passed calmly, routinely. Rebecca clearly tried to spend more time with Lily. She went skating with her, played a board game in the evening. Bill joined in, although he felt like he was in a strange dream. Watching how Rebecca looked tenderly at her daughter, he understood. As a mother, she still loved her, no matter what. And Lily, unsuspectingly, was happy that her mother was home all day. Sometimes Rebecca would glance at Bill, sadly, asking for forgiveness. He either looked away or nodded politely. He himself wanted to shut himself up periodically, maybe even cry, but he didn't allow himself to. Only once, when he went out into the yard after lunch under the pretext of checking his mail, did he allow himself to shed a tear. He quickly wiped it away. No, you can't come unglued. On Saturday night, after Lily had fallen asleep, Bill came downstairs and found Rebecca in the kitchen. She was sitting with her phone, thoughtfully scrolling through something. When her husband appeared, she put it down as if scalded. "I just wrote to my mother that I'll come tomorrow," she explained. Bill nodded. There was an awkward pause. Living under the same roof for the last 24 hours had been torturous. He decided he would sleep on the couch in the living room, not wanting to lie down next to her even like that. "Take the bed in the bedroom, I'll sleep downstairs," he said. "No, I'm supposed to be downstairs," Rebecca objected. "The house is yours. You and Lily are the owners." "The sofa is just more comfortable for me," he snapped, making it clear that the decision was not up for discussion. Rebecca didn't argue. She just said quietly, "Good night." He responded in kind and left. It was a restless night on the couch, but he still managed to get a couple of hours of sleep. On Sunday afternoon, Lily was brought from a friend's. The girl ran in joyfully, started telling about the parties, who did what. Bill looked at Rebecca. "It's time." "Lily, please sit down. Your mother and I need to talk to you," he said softly to his daughter. Lily's eyes widened, but she sat down obediently on the sofa. Rebecca sat down next to her. Bill sat opposite her. He was shaking inside at what was coming. Did something happen? The girl became wary, sensing the seriousness of the moment. Bill cleared his throat. "You know, sometimes it happens that adults have difficulties among themselves. My mother and I have not been getting along very well lately." Lily looked from her father to her mother. "You were arguing? I didn't hear." "We've tried not to argue in front of you," Rebecca said quietly, taking her daughter's hand. "But the truth is, we have serious disagreements." Lily's face fell. "Do you want a divorce?" she almost shouted. Bill raised his palms in a placating manner. "We don't know yet, but we decided to live separately for a while." "No," Lily jumped up, her eyes immediately filling with tears. "Don't say that. Please. You're not at all, are you?" She hesitated, unwilling to speak. Rebecca hugged her daughter, also crying. "Honey, I'm sorry." Bill had a lump in his throat, but he kept his cool. He sat down next to Lily and hugged her from the other side. "We both love you very much, remember," he said hoarsely. "The fact that we won't live together for now doesn't change our attitude towards you. It's just what Mom and I need." Lily sobbed. "So it's true. You won't be together." "Not yet," Bill replied. "Maybe it's temporary. We don't know. But you'll see both of us. No one will abandon you." He felt how naive he was speaking, but it was important to convey. Lily cried, burying her face in her mother's shoulder. "Is it because of me? Did I behave badly? Or because of the grades? I will be better, I promise." Rebecca even screamed. "No, no, my dear. It's not your fault, do you hear? You're the best daughter. It's just between us, really." Bill nodded, patting the girl on the back. "Yes, honey, it's not your fault at all. It just happens between adults." Lily wiped her eyes with her fist. "You loved each other. Why?" They couldn't answer this question fully. Bill only repeated, "We tried. And we love, it's just. Sometimes love changes." Inside he thought, sometimes one person shatters love into pieces, but didn't say. It took Lily about 30 minutes to calm down a bit. She was crying and asking questions. How long are you going to be separated? Are you going to get a divorce? Do I have to move? Bill and Rebecca answered cautiously, without details about the betrayal, of course. Just, we need to live separately and figure it out. We haven't decided about the divorce, maybe. They decided that Lily would stay with her dad on weekdays and spend every weekend with her mom, or as they agreed, they immediately discussed a rough schedule so that the daughter would not be afraid of losing her mother. Eventually, Lily got tired of crying and went to her room, saying she wanted to be alone. That was okay. Bill knew the baby was going through a tough time. Rebecca packed a suitcase with her things, mostly clothes and personal items. Bill helped her carry them to the car. Before leaving, they exchanged a few phrases. "I'll call her tomorrow," Rebecca said, wiping her red eyes. "Yes, of course. Maybe we should take her to a psychologist," Bill thought. "Do you think it's necessary?" Rebecca nervously fiddled with the strap of her bag. "We'll see how he feels," he replied. "If he's really worried, it's better to have a professional help him. I'll ask the school psychologist who he recommends." Rebecca nodded. Then she turned to him. "Bill, thank you for not turning her against me. I know you could have, but you were very noble." There was genuine gratitude and regret in her voice. "It's not for you, it's for her," he said dryly. "And I don't want any scandals. It won't lead to anything good." She looked down. "You are too good, better than I deserve." Without answering, he walked away from the car. Rebecca got in and rolled down the window. "If anything, any questions, call. And about Lily, don't push me away, okay?" "Sure," Bill sighed. "I'll see you on Friday then. You can take her for the weekend." She nodded affirmatively. One last look, and the car drove away, disappearing around the corner. Bill stood in the yard until even the noise of the engine died away. He raised his face to the sky, trying not to burst into tears like a boy. "Now, I'm officially dumped," he thought bitterly. But then he corrected himself. "No, I actually kicked her out because she betrayed me." There was little sense of relief, even though the truth had been revealed. There was a sense of grief, the loss of a 15-year marriage, and fear of the future. Lily was quietly crying in her room at home. Bill knew he needed to give her time. He went to the kitchen and called his parents. They had to tell him too, but he decided not to go into details for now, just told his mother that he and Rebecca were having problems and had temporarily separated. His mother gasped and began asking questions, but Bill firmly cut him off, saying he didn't want to discuss the details for now. His father picked up the phone and said he supported any decision and could help with anything needed. The call gave Bill a little comfort. His parents were shocked, but not lecturing. He knew they loved Rebecca as a daughter, and it was a blow to them too. But he didn't explain why, maybe later, but not now. In the evening, Lily came out of the room, pale, her eyes swollen. Bill hugged her, suggested going for a walk or to a cafe to distract themselves. She refused, saying she just wanted to watch a movie at home. They sat together on the couch and turned on a light comedy. Lily clung to her dad, and he stroked her hair, feeling how she trembled from time to time. She tried not to cry, to be strong. "Dad, you won't argue with Mom, will you?" she suddenly asked quietly. "No, we won't," he assured. "We agreed to be peaceful for your sake." Lily smiled weakly. "Okay, what if you make peace? That happens, right?" Bill remained silent, not knowing what to answer. He did not want to give false hope, but it would be cruel to crush all his daughter's dreams. So he said evasively, "Time will tell, sunshine." Lily didn't ask any more questions. After the movie, she fell asleep right on the couch in his lap. Bill carefully carried her to bed and covered her. Tears came to his eyes from seeing her suffering, but he held back and exhaled. Left alone, he allowed himself to let out his emotions for the first time. He went into his now only his bedroom and collapsed on the bed. And quietly, so as not to wake his daughter, he burst into tears, burying his face in the pillow. These were tears of resentment, grief, disappointment, and some kind of relief at the same time all at once. In his head, an unanswered question sounded, "Why is this happening to me?" After crying, Bill felt empty, but also a little lighter. He remembered the psychologist's words, "Don't close yourself off. Don't be shy about asking for support." And he dialed Mike, a lawyer friend. "Mike, hi. Sorry it's late. Can I just talk?" Mike responded immediately. "Of course, go ahead." Bill went out onto the porch so as not to wake Lily and spent about 20 minutes just talking, sometimes getting confused. He told her that it had been confirmed that they had decided to separate, what Lily had said and how hard it was. Mike listened, interjecting sympathetic interjections. At the end, his friend said, "You did everything right. I'm proud of you, really. Few people are capable of doing it so coolly and civilly." Bill smiled bitterly. "There is no composure inside. That's understandable. Listen, remember how you recommended the gym near your work? Do you still go there?" Mike suddenly changed the subject. "No, I gave up a couple of months ago. I didn't have enough time." Bill was surprised. "Maybe you should resume. Sports are a great stress reliever. I can join you a couple of times a week," Mike suggested. "Yeah, that's an idea." Bill scratched his chin. "I guess it's worth it." They agreed to go in a few days. After the conversation, Bill felt a little warmer in his soul. "I have friends, parents, a daughter. I have someone to live for." In the following days, he took a couple of days off from work to process legal matters and recover. He took Lily to the school psychologist, who recommended a child-family therapist. They made an appointment. Lily was reluctant at first, but Bill gently insisted that it wouldn't hurt for them both to talk to a specialist. Bill himself continued to see his therapist, Grayson, once a week to process his emotions. This helped keep things in balance at home. Rebecca called Lily every day, sometimes stopped by after work to take her to a club or just to see her. She behaved correctly, tried not to cross paths with Bill for long periods of time. It felt like she was avoiding him. He was also not eager to communicate unnecessarily. Everything was only business-related, about the child, finances. Speaking of finances, a week after they left, they sat down to discuss the bills. It was almost a business conversation. They decided not to formally divide anything yet, but to open separate accounts for each and distribute some of the money so that they wouldn't have to control each other's expenses. Bill left Rebecca access to the joint savings account, telling her to use it for her own needs. They both earned about the same, so there were no special financial claims. The house was still his and Lily's, but if they sold it, they would divide it. Bill, of course, could complain that the cheater didn't deserve half, but he didn't want a dirty war. Besides, the house was bought jointly. The only thing is, Bill asked directly, "Are you going to move in with him, or is he going to move in with you? Just be honest, so you understand how it will affect Lily." Rebecca blushed. "No, we are not together. I told him it was over." Bill looked closely. It seemed true. She added, "I quit that salon. I'm moving to another one where he's not. It's better that way." He shrugged. "It's your business." He was, admittedly, a little pleased that her romance had not ended happily. Although there was still a divorce ahead, maybe they would get back together later, who knows. But he tried not to think about her and Jordan, to erase the image. Bill dealt with his grief little by little. He went back to jogging in the mornings, went to the gym with Mike, and started reading a book about the psychology of divorce that his therapist recommended. At work, everyone gradually found out that he was now living separately from his wife. He simply said that they were getting a divorce without details and asked them not to pester him with questions. His colleagues were generally understanding. Somewhere they sympathetically patted him on the shoulder. Someone invited him to have a beer after work. Bill even went out to a bar with the guys one day so as not to sit at home. Every evening, Bill paid maximum attention to Lily. He helped her with her homework. They began to cook dinner together before. Rebecca did it more often, or they ordered it, but now it became a ritual for them with their daughter. Lily learned to bake cookies, make simple salads. These everyday things distracted them both. Of course, Lily had tears at night. Bill heard her quiet sobs from the room a couple of times. Then he would come in, stroke her head, sit next to her until she fell asleep. Her main fear was, "Will you never be together again?" He did not know what to answer. He only said, "I don't know how life will turn out, but I will always be with you, and so will Mom." Over time, Lily got used to it a little, although the sadness remained. On the advice of a child psychologist, they tried to maintain the usual routine and traditions for the girl. For example, every Sunday they used to go to a cafe for breakfast with the whole family. Now they went alone with Lily. Both parents showed up at school events whenever possible, but they kept a polite distance so as not to embarrass their daughter. So about a month passed after their separation. No one had formally filed for divorce, yet Bill wanted to wait a little, and Rebecca was in no hurry, apparently cherishing hope or simply afraid of this step. But no matter how much you put it off, the question hung in the air. About a month and a half after the affair was revealed, Bill felt ready to take the next step to begin divorce proceedings. His wound, though still aching, was no longer bleeding so sharply, and he needed certainty. He didn't want to be left in limbo, neither together nor apart. He met Mike again for lunch and discussed the details. Mike agreed to represent him formally. They drafted a divorce petition. In Pennsylvania, you could state irreconcilable differences or family member committed adultery. Mike asked, "Should we indicate betrayal as the reason?" Bill thought, "If he points it out, the process will proceed by proving guilt, which is longer and dirtier, although with his materials it is advantageous. But if it is possible by mutual agreement, it will be faster. I want it by agreement," he decided. "I don't need scandals in court. The main thing is that she agrees too." "Most likely, she will agree," Mike nodded. "She repents, she doesn't need shame either." Bill had the same idea. The lawyer suggested that they formalize the details. "As far as the children are concerned, I understand that you are leaning towards 50/50ths joint custody." "Yes, we already do this. Lily lives with me, but sees her mother often. I think we'll arrange it this way. The main place of residence is with her father, but her mother takes every weekend, and by agreement weekdays, we share holidays. It will be more convenient for Lily. The school is close to home. It's familiar." Mike wrote it down. "Finance. House. What will you do? Buy out her share or sell and divide?" It was a difficult question. The house was the family home. It was a shame to sell it, and Lily had grown up there. Bill would rather keep the house so as not to bother Lily. He could pay Rebecca half the current value. But would he have enough money? Maybe he could take out a loan. "I'd like to leave the house to Lily and me," he said. "I'm willing to pay her her share, gradually or as we agree." "Okay," the lawyer nodded. "Everyone has their own cars. Everything is clear here. Bills it is better to split in half, except for pension ones. They are also split in half according to the law." "Yes, we'll split it fairly," Bill confirmed. "Child support? We earn about the same. I don't claim it from her." "You don't have to assign it officially if you both spend equally on the child. But it's better to write down that everyone bears the costs, for example, who pays for school, clubs," Mike suggested. They took this into account. Since the conflict was actually settled and Rebecca was making concessions, Mike suggested that it would be possible to do without going to court, through a mediator. But to be on the safe side, let it be legally formalized. "I'll prepare a divorce agreement," the lawyer concluded. "You give it to her, let her read it, maybe with her lawyer if she wants it, and we'll file it together." That evening, when Lily was at Bill's parents' grandmother's, who had invited their granddaughter for the weekend to support her, Bill made an appointment with Rebecca at her place. She was now renting a small apartment not far from her work. She hadn't lived with her mother for long and had decided to settle down separately. He arrived there with a folder of papers. It was the first time they had sat down calmly to discuss the future without nerves. Rebecca looked sad but collected. After hearing him say it was time to officially divorce, she quietly replied, "Yes, I thought so. I agree." Bill laid out the main points of the agreement, about Lily, about the house, about the property. Rebecca immediately said, Keep the house for yourself, of course. I don't want to live there. It would be too painful for me, and Lily is better off that way. But you are entitled to half its value, he noted. We'll see. Maybe I'll give up some of it, she shrugged. Honestly, I don't care about the material side right now. Bill didn't insist. Legally, it still needs to be divided, but it can be resolved flexibly, like she'll give up part due to a sense of guilt. Who knows? And how are you? She suddenly asked, when the main topics had been discussed. How are you feeling? The question caught them off guard. They didn't usually talk about feelings after a breakup. I'm coping, he answered evasively. I go to the therapist, exercise, work. Lily, well, the main thing is that she's okay. Rebecca smiled sadly. You're great. I heard from Lily, you do so much together. She loves you so much. Bill looked down. We both have to take care of her. He decided to ask too. And how are you? She smiled bitterly. As a man who has lost everything that was important. Not really. Bill remained silent. It was her own fault on her tongue, but why say it? Jordan quit too, she added suddenly. He left town, I think. I broke off all contact. I don't care, Bill snapped, but without anger, just distantly. Rebecca sighed. I know, I guess I want you to understand that I'm not going to build a life with him. It was my terrible, stupid affair, and I'm glad it's over. He just shrugged. He was neither happy nor sad about this fact. Rather empty. They agreed that she would hire her own lawyer for a consultation, although, in Rebecca's words, I trust you, but we still need to check in case we miss something. Bill didn't mind. It was better to let him feel confident. Before leaving, they exchanged some pleasantries. Would you like some tea? No, thank you. When he was already at the door, Rebecca called out quietly, Bill. He turned around. Yes? She looked almost pleadingly. Will you ever be able to forgive me? He looked down and was silent. I don't know, Rebecca. Honestly, I'm not ready yet. She nodded, clenching her fingers. Understand. Take care of yourself, was all he said at last and left. In the car on the way home, Bill thought, it's good that everything is going in a civilized manner, but the bitter aftertaste will still remain for a long time. Forgive. Is it even possible? His therapist said that forgiveness is necessary for one's own peace of mind, not for the sake of another. Maybe when time passes, he will let go of the offense. It's too early. Over the next month, the legal formalities were completed. Rebecca did give up some of the material. She said she didn't want half of the savings, leaving them to Bill for Lily's needs, and she agreed that he would pay her only a quarter of the house's value, not half, so as not to get into debt. It was a generous move, though, given her guilt, a natural one. Bill accepted, although he felt a little uncomfortable, but he didn't argue. They signed an agreement, filed a joint divorce petition. In PA, even with mutual consent, there was a waiting period if no fault, like 90 days you have to live separately first. But they had already lived together for over 2 months, so it was fine. They were given a court date for final approval. The day of the trial arrived, unremarkable. Lily knew her parents were filing for divorce. She had gotten used to the idea by then, although sadness sometimes crept in. Bill and Rebecca drove to the courthouse in 2 cars, met outside the courtroom. They were with lawyers. The wait was tense. Other couples were around. Someone was arguing quietly. They were silent. When they were called, the judge, an elderly man, looked through the papers and asked a couple of questions about the agreement and the child. Do both parents agree to joint custody and the division of property that has been reached? He asked. Yes, Your Honor, they answered almost in unison. The judge even looked approvingly. I'm glad to see a civilized approach. 10 minutes later, everything was finished. The marriage was dissolved. The judge banged his gavel, and this echo became the final point of their family life. Rebecca left the room with red eyes she had been holding back there, but a tear came out. Bill felt a strange emptiness and a slight relief. The formalities were over. He was free, but at the same time officially divorced, which was hard to comprehend. They shook hands with the lawyers, who left. Bill and Rebecca were left alone on the court steps for a minute. "Well, that's it now," she said quietly, looking at her ring. She was still wearing it. Suddenly, she took it off and squeezed it in her palm. Bill had also stopped wearing the ring since the day she left it was lying in a drawer at home. He nodded. "Yes, we did as needed." She took a deep breath. "Thank you, Bill, for the respect, for not starting a war." "It's not in my nature," he answered simply. She timidly suggested, "Maybe we should celebrate somehow. I mean, have some coffee as a farewell gesture." He thought for a second, but shook his head. "I don't think so. It's better to immediately go our separate ways." It was clearly painful for her to hear, but she accepted it. "I understand. Then, good luck, Bill." "And you too, Rebecca," he sighed. "I'll see you when you bring Lily." They stood awkwardly for a moment, then he turned and walked towards the car. No drama, everything went smoothly. The adults went their separate ways, but there was a heavy sadness in the soul. At home that day, Bill just sat silently in a chair, staring at one point, allowing himself to feel grief one last time. Lily came up to him quietly. "Dad, are you okay?" He woke up, looked at his daughter, this 12-year-old girl who had already been through so much. He didn't want to burden her with his emotions, so he stood up and hugged her. "Yes, honey, everything is fine. Everything will be fine now." She nodded, hugging him trustingly. Bill hoped that would be the case. A few more months passed. Bill gradually settled into his new role as a single father, albeit with his mother at a distance, a divorced man in his 40s. It was not easy, but he managed. Lily lived with him on weekdays and spent almost every weekend with Rebecca. Over time, her daughter stopped crying and being sad every day, although sometimes, at certain moments, she could say, "I miss you together." Then Bill tried to switch her to something positive. He felt that their connection with their daughter became even stronger. They shared their experiences more than before, supported each other. They discussed her successes and problems. Lily went to a child psychologist for a couple of months, and this helped her talk about her fears. One of the main ones was that her dad or mom would find new partners and forget about her. The psychologist explained, and at home Bill confirmed that this would not happen, that she would always be the main priority. Bill had an even, business-like relationship with Rebecca. They talked on the phone or at meetings about Lily, discussed her academic performance, health, and schedule. Sometimes they attended school events together, sitting next to each other, but not as a couple, but as parents. At first, it was oppressive. People around them knew they were divorced. Some mothers looked at them sideways with pity, but then they got used to it. It was important that Lily saw that mom and dad could be in the same room without arguing, even friendly. Bill noticed changes in himself, too. In the first weeks after the divorce, he felt worthless and broken. However, with the support of friends, parents, and therapy, he gradually gained confidence. He realized that life was not over. Yes, it was different now, but maybe not worse, just different. He found some positives. He liked spending a lot of time with Lily, doing things he hadn't had the chance to do before. They went on a short trip together in the summer. They went by car to the mountains for a couple of days. Previously, it was planned by the whole family, but after the divorce, Rebecca didn't join, naturally. Instead, Bill invited his brother and his family, so it turned out to be a fun trip. Cousins, brother, Lily, everyone. It was good for the girl. She got distracted, ran around. Financially, Bill found it a little more difficult. He had only one salary, although Rebecca partially helped with some of the large expenses for their daughter. But he cut down on unnecessary expenses, revised the budget, as an accountant should, and optimized it. They did not formalize any court alimony, but they tacitly agreed. Dad covers school and household needs, mom clothes, entertainment, additional courses. It worked. One day, on their previous wedding anniversary, Bill felt depressed. Lily was at her mother's that day, and he was home alone. Memories flooded in. If only he and Rebecca could go out for dinner like they used to. He decided not to sit at home. He called Thomas, a colleague who was also single, and they went to see an action movie, then played pool. It was a distraction. Bill was learning to live by filling the void with new impressions. Rebecca would occasionally send text messages about more than just her. For example, congratulate Lily, she won the drawing contest. Or, how are you? Are you okay? Bill would reply briefly but politely, without any personal details. He noticed that over time he was thinking about her less, and less at least not every minute, as he had immediately after the betrayal. The pain was dulling. Although sometimes an attack could hit, he would see a scene of betrayal on TV, and an unpleasant lump would form in his chest. Or he would see a similar car, like Jordan's, and his heart would skip a beat with anger. But he worked on this in therapy, slowly letting it go. One day, Rebecca herself suggested, maybe we should go to a psychologist together, talk, not as a couple, but as parents, to better understand how to help Lily. Bill appreciated the offer. The three of them attended a session with a family psychologist. They discussed their parenting style after divorce, how to coordinate. The specialist praised them for being friendly. Bill, deep down, also understood that they were doing better than many. He had heard stories of how, after cheating, people take revenge on their exes, set their children up, and constantly fight. He managed not to stoop to that level. He was proud of himself and thanked the circumstances and advice for this decision. Once, when about 6 months had passed since the breakup, Bill noticed that for the first time in a long time he woke up in the morning and did not immediately think about the past. Before, his first thought was, I'm alone, I was betrayed. And now he thought, what's going on today? I need to make an appointment with Lily at the dentist. Ordinary life returned. Life went on. One day, while going through old things, Bill came across a photo album with wedding photos. He looked for a long time at the young, shining Rebecca in her dress and himself next to her, happy. It was amazing how their fate had changed. He wanted to throw the album away so as not to disturb his soul. But Bill decided to keep it for Lily, and for the memory, after all, there were many good things. You can't cross out 15 years as if they never happened. He also quietly removed other reminders from the house. He took several photos of them together off the walls and put them in a box. Instead, he hung a landscape and a photo with his daughter from a trip. He changed some interior items to refresh the atmosphere. Lily helped. They even repainted her room in a new color of her choice, bright green instead of pink. Such a symbol of change. And then one day, closer to winter, Bill caught himself thinking that he felt normal. Not great yet, no, but calm. He was walking home from work in the snow in the evening. The holidays were coming. He thought about how he would spend Christmas. Most likely, Lily would be with him part of the day, part with her mother. Maybe they would even all get together for a couple of hours for her sake, who knows. He didn't mind if that was what his daughter needed. The pain and anger no longer dug into him when he thought about his ex. There was sadness left, but also resignation. That night he wrote in the diary, the psychologist advised him to keep. It seems that I am returning to myself. I have survived. I have become stronger. This winter will be the beginning of a new stage. He thought with a smile that it would be nice to go skiing in the mountains with friends, or to finally start going to culinary classes, where a colleague invited him. Opportunities were opening up, and he was ready to live on, this time for himself and for his daughter. Throughout this story, in addition to official matters and family decisions, Bill felt how important the support of those around him was. Without talking to his loved ones and specialists, it would have been much more difficult for him to remain steadfast. After the divorce, he continued to visit Grayson's psychologist periodically, at first once a week, then less often. During the sessions, they discussed the anger that still leaked out from time to time. For example, Bill admitted that he sometimes fantasized about saying a few sweet words to Jordan when they met, although he had no intention of doing so. The doctor helped him channel these emotions into harmless channel sports, or writing a letter that did not necessarily have to be sent with all the grievances. Bill wrote such a letter to Rebecca. He poured out how much pain he had felt, how humiliated he felt. Then he tore it up. This brought relief. Conversations with Lily were especially important. The psychologist advised holding family councils, a time when the two of them could talk frankly about feelings and issues. Once a week, usually on Sunday evenings, Bill would make them tea with cookies. They would sit down and discuss the past week. Lily would share, first cautiously, and then more boldly. I felt bad when the girls at school asked why you didn't live with your mother, or I was angry at you and your mother for this to happen. Bill would calmly say everything. He never allowed himself to speak badly about his mother in response. He would simply acknowledge her emotions. Yes, you feel hurt, and I understand. He would also share his own. I can be sad too, but I'm glad that everything is fine with you and me. These evenings brought them incredibly close. Lily became more open, no longer withdrawn into her thoughts. Bill was proud of her maturity at 12, 13 years old. She showed great sensitivity. One day she asked, "Dad, have you forgiven Mom?" Bill thought for a moment and answered honestly, "Probably not completely yet, but I try not to hold a grudge. For my sake and for yours." Lily nodded. "I wish you wouldn't be angry with each other. I know it's Mom's fault." She hesitated, choosing her words. Bill stroked her hand. "This is between us. It is important for you to know. Both I and Mom love you." "I know," she pressed herself against him. "It's just a shame it happened." "I'm sorry too," he said quietly. "But life goes on, dear." Sometimes Lily would ask about the future. "Are you going to date anyone else?" At first, Bill would brush it off, saying it was too early for me to think about it, and I had no time. She once said seriously, "I think you need a friend. You're so alone when I'm not around." Bill was surprised. "I'm not alone, I have friends, you." "That's different," the daughter shook her head. "In my class, half the parents have new families. At first the children were angry, but then they got used to it." "I don't have any such plans yet," he chuckled. "I'm happy being with you and taking care of myself." Lily wisely didn't press any further. But the conversation made Bill think, really, what if he ever met another woman? Would he be able to trust after that? The psychologist said that the trauma of trust takes a long time to heal, but not forever. Perhaps, with time, he would be ready. Bill felt that the scars had not yet healed. Each day for now was devoted to rebuilding himself, learning to enjoy the little things, to freedom. Bill also sometimes shared things with his colleagues at work in an informal setting. It turned out that one of his colleagues was going through a divorce, though without cheating, and he gave a couple of pieces of advice on how to get along on his own. For example, Bill really didn't like ironing clothes Rebecca, or a dry cleaner used to do that. A colleague recommended a good cleaning service, and Bill used the service a couple of times when he was in a jam. A woman came, cleaned up, and ironed. He felt that there was nothing wrong with seeking help, rather than trying to be a Superman on his own. Relatives also put in their 2 cents. Bill's mother hoped for a while that they would change their minds about the divorce, even after the fact she wanted to scold Rebecca, like, how could she? But Bill asked, "Please, Mom, no need for conflicts. We've already decided. There's no point in sorting things out." The mother listened, although she was very angry with her former daughter-in-law. Over time, when she saw that Rebecca was trying for her granddaughter, she thawed a little. At Lily's birthday party, which took place a few months after the divorce, Rebecca came to their house. Bill, for the sake of the child, agreed to hold a joint celebration with both families. His parents were there too. It was the first joint event since the breakup. It went surprisingly smoothly. Everyone behaved correctly, although tension was felt. After the cake, Bill's mother still took Rebecca aside, and they spoke quietly. Bill heard his mother's phrase out of the corner of his ear, "Well, I hope you understand." And Rebecca's answer, "I'm sincerely sorry." Then they returned, and things seemed to have improved. At least, things did not come to open hostility. Bill exhaled, then thank God there were no scandals in front of Lily. Bill and Jordan had an important conversation, or rather, not a conversation, but a meeting. One day, when Bill was stopping at the mall to buy a gift for Lily for the holiday, he suddenly saw a familiar face at the window of a sports store. It was Jordan. He also noticed Bill and froze. Bill felt the blood rush to his head. Here he is, the man who broke up my family. Jordan was in no hurry to approach, but he wasn't running either. Bill himself walked toward him, confidently. The old anger was boiling inside him, but he reminded himself, take it easy. He came close. Jordan swallowed nervously. Hello, Mr. Harris. He was younger, yes, about 5 years younger than Rebecca Handsome. It was the first time Bill had looked at him so closely, and he thought, what did she find? Youth, perhaps, ease. Hello, Bill replied dryly. I didn't expect to see you. Jordan nodded. I feel very guilty before you. He said it straight out, which slightly discouraged Bill. Apparently, he wasn't going to snap back. Yes, Bill answered shortly. That's right. The guy looked down. I'd like to apologize, if that means anything. Bill was silent for a few seconds. He felt like he wanted to punch this guy in the face. But he looked genuinely guilty and had already been punished enough he had lost his job, and apparently Rebecca was not with him either. So Bill said quietly, an apology won't bring back what was, but I accept, okay? Jordan looked up slightly, surprised by this reaction. You are very generous. Believe me, I did not want to destroy. It's too late to talk about it, Bill cut him off. I don't want to make a scene. I hope you've learned your lesson too. Yes, sir, he nodded. You are a strong man. I respect you. Bill didn't even know what to say to the compliment from his ex-wife's lover. He nodded simply and was about to leave when he suddenly added, looking at him sternly, don't you dare interfere in our lives anymore. Not with me, not with Rebecca, and especially not with my daughter. Jordan raised his hands in a placating gesture. No, what are you saying? I wouldn't dare. I left a long time ago. I just came back on business. Don't worry, you won't see me. Bill turned and left without saying goodbye. His heart was pounding, but he was proud that he hadn't gotten into a fight or insults. This episode, oddly enough, added to his sense of closure. He had met his rival, and he had fallen on his face in essence, some kind of moral satisfaction. At the next therapy, he told me about this meeting. The doctor asked, what did you feel afterwards? Bill thought, relief, as if I had put an end to it. I even felt a little sorry for him. He was obviously worried too. You are a generous man, Bill, the doctor noted. Forgiveness is part of healing. Perhaps you will forgive Rebecca in your soul someday. Bill just shrugged. Time will show. He almost didn't feel hatred towards her anymore, rather the remnants of resentment. They communicated neutrally. Perhaps he would really be able to talk to her without bitterness someday. A year after receiving those horrific photographs, Bill's life had changed completely, and he was taking stock. It had been a tough year, but he was proud of how he had handled it. He was sitting in the lawyer's office, signing the last papers, the sale of the house. Yes, in the end, they decided to sell the old house. Too many memories there weighed on both him and Lily. Besides, the house was too big for two. With the money, Bill bought a smaller house near Lily's school, and Rebecca finally insisted on taking her share, although less than she was entitled to, and also invested in a cozy apartment with 2 bedrooms. So now Lily had 2 rooms, her dad's and her mom's. After the paperwork, Bill went outside and took a deep breath. He caught himself feeling light. His financial affairs were settled. There were no major grievances. His daughter had adjusted. He had a new chapter in his life ahead of him. He got into the car and drove to a new job. Yes, he even changed jobs. After the divorce, he decided that there should be changes in his career too. He found a position as a financial manager in a larger company. This provided a higher income, and the new environment was beneficial. Fewer reminders of the past. The colleagues at his old job were good, but every corner there remembered how he suffered then. Now a clean slate. His evening was going to be unusual. His friend Mike and a couple of other comrades persuaded him to go to a bar for a lonely hearts night. Bill refused for a long time, but decided why not just try to chat. He wasn't looking for a serious relationship on purpose, but it wouldn't hurt to hang out. Before leaving, he checked on Lily at her mother's. She had been at Rebecca's that week. The daughter said enthusiastically on the phone. "Dad, good luck to you today. Maybe you'll meet." She giggled, "Meet someone." "We'll see," he answered, laughing. "Don't expect a report, nothing special." But Lily was glad that her dad was open to life again. She herself had already felt better. She had made friends with the new reality, two houses, parents nearby, even if not together. Bill took his jacket and took one last look at himself in the mirror. He looked quite cheerful, slimmer from training, slightly grayer over the year, but that gave him a solid look, he told himself with a grin. He walked out of the house, confidently locked the door, and walked to the car. I thought to myself, how strange, a year ago I wouldn't have believed that I could live so peacefully. But now I can. He even felt a quiet gratitude to fate, better the bitter truth than a sweet lie. Already getting into the car, Bill suddenly felt some kind of inner forgiveness. He mentally turned to the image of Rebecca. "I let you go. Thank you for the lesson. Be happy." He felt better at the thought. He knew there might still be difficulties ahead, raising a teenage daughter, and perhaps a new relationship someday. But he also knew he could handle it. After all, he had been through betrayal, divorce, and remained himself an honest, calm, sober-minded person who had not lost his daughter or his self-respect. The car started moving. On the road, his favorite radio turned on. Bill picked up the melody, tapping his fingers on the steering wheel. Yes, life goes on, and he is ready to write its next chapter, step by step, confidently moving forward. Subscribe to our channel so that your love doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think, click to the next one.